Hi, I'm Jack Koenig with Graco Industrial Lubrication Equipment, and this is a grease valve. This is also a grease valve, and so is this. This is a manually operated grease valve. When you squeeze the trigger, it lets the barrel pump the grease, and when you let it go, the grease flow stops. So there you go, manually operated. These two are automatic. These are the autofill shutoff valve for the reservoirs on our G3 pumps and also our electric and hydraulic Dyna-Star pumps. At the top of each reservoir, which includes the autofill shutoff valve, there is also either a valve plate, as on this G3, or a diaphragm, as what's inside of this electric Dyna-Star reservoir. This is what the Dyna-Star diaphragm looks like. It has metal in the middle, and it has a rubber flexible part around the edges. Once the grease level in the reservoir rises to the point where it actually presses on the diaphragm, these little flappers in the bottom close because they only let the air through, not the grease, and then the whole diaphragm pushes up onto the autofill shutoff valve, which pushes up this pin. Let's take a closer look at what's actually happening inside of the autofill shutoff valve. This close-up shows us what's going on inside of the autofill shutoff valve. One thing that's not shown here is a spring that's a fairly strong spring enclosed in this area, and it keeps this pin pressed down, and this poppet is held down, leaving the path open for the grease flow. So the grease comes in this side and it flows across to the left and out the outlet when the reservoir is not full. So the poppet is open when the reservoir is not full because the pin is down. When the valve is open, the grease can flow right through there. But now as the diaphragm lifts up, it presses up that poppet and it cuts off the flow of grease into the reservoir. The other thing that happens at the same time is the pin extends out the top. If any of you recognizes the spud that we used here, it's the same one we use on the MSP valves. So you could take either a 563-272 or 563-273 switch, which are typically used to count cycles on a divider valve, and you could mount that to the top of this so that you could see when that pin sticks up and get an electronic signal. And that's all it's to it. Now that was a look inside of the Dyna-Star valve, which is rectangular, but the G3 valve works the same way. It just happens to be round so that it would fit better on top of the G3 reservoir. But it's the same thing going on inside, where there's one long pin that causes the pin on the top to stick out when the plate pushes it up, and there's that poppet that in the process closes off the fill path of the grease reservoir. So the key with these autofill shutoff valves is that the fill line has to be connected to the valve, which is at the top of the reservoir, which is a little bit counterintuitive because most of us who have worked with grease reservoirs know that you fill them from the bottom. On the G3, there are several places to fill it. On the Dyna-Star, there's a big pipe plug at the bottom, and you pull that out and put the grease in through the bottom. With the autofill shutoff valve, they have to be filled through the top, because if the fill line doesn't go through the valve, then it can't do its job automatically. So if you have a vent line coming from, say, a remote fill manifold, then the vent line would hook to the bottom, but the fill line needs to hook to the top to come in through the autofill shutoff valve. Hopefully this video has provided a good explanation of what's going on inside of the autofill shutoff valve. If you have any questions about autofill shutoff valves, Graco reservoirs and pumps, or any other Graco product, please contact us. We are always happy to hear from you. Thanks.